All right. Let's see. I think we can get started. Good evening, Soulfire. Of course, I am Molly Maloney. I'm very excited to be here this evening to talk about manifesting protection with a wonderful mentor and teacher, Barbara Bloecher. I'm so excited to have you here this evening. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I can't wait to see where we go. Barbara, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and about the work that you do?
Well, I think everybody knows at this point, my name's Barbara Bloecher, and I have been studying metaphysics and all my life, basically, and shamanism probably for the last, I'm going to say 25 years. And I'm a shamanic practitioner and teacher, and I do healing work. And I also do metaphysics and meditation. And some of you may have heard of me previously from a Tuesday night meditation class that had been ongoing for, I don't know, 30 years, and that has been stopped because of the health issues in our country right now. So what else would you like to know, Molly?
I think that's a great start, and we may have questions. Of course, everybody, as we always go through these conversations, you may see me glance off to the side from time to time. That is me actually checking the live feed to check and see if you have questions or comments. If you do, please feel free and jot those down in the comment section, and I will make sure that we take time to stop and answer those. But before we jump into our conversation tonight, we talked about doing just a little bit of a grounding prayer or exercise just to kind of get us into the space before we jump in.
So everybody put your feet flat on the floor if you would. And I'm going to say a prayer. And while I'm saying the prayer, I would ask you to also, when I start calling in energy from different directions, I'd ask you to do that too. So you can create sacred space in the same place, in the place where you're sitting, and that all of us then can be sitting in a like energy in sacred space. Most infinite spirit, master of the universe and Lord of us all, creator that moves and lives through all things. We gather here this evening on these electronics that we're grateful for at the time. Seekers, we're spiritual seekers. And we seek truth on all levels, and we are striving to expand our goodness and our compassion and our energy and our abilities. We call in loving energy from the east, and we honor the air. We call in loving energy from the south, and we honor fire. We call in loving energy from the west, and we honor water. We call in energy from the north, and we certainly honor our planet, Mother Earth. And we call in energy from above and from below, and most importantly, for the creator within. We honor our own divine energy, and so it is. Aho.
And so it is. Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So we're talking about manifesting protection tonight. And I think, you and I had talked about starting at the very beginning there and talk about what actually protection is when we talk about manifesting protection.
My definition of protection is very simple. Everybody will be able to remember it. It's prevention from harm. That's it. Prevention from harm. And when we stop and we think about that, we can, prevent harm physically, emotionally, mentally. It's three small words, but it encompasses a lot. And this evening, we're going to be talking about energy, protecting our own personal energy and the energy around us.
think that's a great definition, and one that I will. It is very simple and it's easy to carry and touch back into, which I really like. And I think maybe the next part of that is really talking about what do we mean by harm. When we talk about harm, that can come in so many different ways, and especially when we're talking about an energetic level, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, let's start with what my definition of energy is, if that's all right.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's basically what connects all of us. Energy is, we're all energy. Everything's energy. And it connects us to the universe. It connects us to the spirits. And our energy, and, the blank places too, that, what we look at and we think there's nothing there, it's filled with energy. We are on this planet, we're walking around in an energetic soup, actually. And some of the soup is tasty and some of it's not. And so we are, as spiritual seekers, and most human beings attempt to keep on a path of light or support positive energy. And so we do that by maintaining our vibration, and our energy vibrates, and vibration basically is just moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then we try to keep it as high as we can. And so that's how the movement, how fast it moves. So in doing that, keeping our energy and our vibration high, it helps us a lot to kind of be Velcro. Mm-hmm. And because there's also heavier energy out there, and heavier energy is, it can drag us down. It can make us sick. It can make us feel, how many times have you walked into a room and you've gone, ugh, something's happened in here, and you start backing up. Or you've been with a friend and who's been really hurt and upset or angry, and you get angry as well. You don't really have a good reason except your friend's angry. I'm good at that. And so it helps us to not pick up what we don't want, and to maintain what we do want.
Right. That makes perfect sense. So when we talk about we're avoiding by harm, we're talking about anything that could impact adversely our energy frequency, our energy level.
Yes. In shamanism and in a lot of metaphysical practices, the belief is, just for illness, that if we're not maintaining our energy, then dis-ease starts out at the edge of your energy field, and it starts working its way in. Mm-hmm. And that's just one repercussion, I guess you could say, of an energy field that is depleted. We can get sick.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that, Barbara, I just had a thought and it went just right out of my head. Give me a second here.
Yeah, it looks like we're both drinking.
I've had the heat on in this room all day. We've got really thin older windows, and so it's I've had the heat on in here all day, and I'm starting to cook a little bit. So as far as protecting ourselves from harm, we're talking about not only in our spiritual work, but just in the day-to-day as well. So what are some of the practices that we can look at as far as, Well, and maybe that even takes us into the manifesting piece, because of course we start to think about manifesting, and manifesting is a little bit of a buzzword in the spiritual and healing communities nowadays. We start to think about manifesting and what that means. And in my mind, it kind of, the image that drops in immediately is kind of aligning myself with the perfect idea of, I think about manifesting, if I want, abundance, what that feels like. And I kind of bring myself into that, emotional state of what it would feel like to be abundant. So if we talk about manifesting protection, is it something similar? Is it more complicated? What does that process look like?
Well, I guess it's up to you whether it's, and not you personally, but whether it's complicated or simple. Because it has to do with our own personal power, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell some stories along the way, and it's not necessarily talking about me as much as it's sort of like teaching with story and giving examples. So let's say it can be on a physical level. It's we're talking about energetics here, and we're talking about this middle world, and there's a lot of caca out there that we don't want to pick up. But in the physical portion of it, being protected does not necessarily mean that life does not happen to you.
Sure.
It does mean that life is good to you as far as, let's say you have a car wreck. You can look at it as like, oh my God, I've just wrecked my car. That was my baby. And go on and on about, what's happened as you are walking away from a mangled automobile, complaining. Right. So there's protection there. And it happens to us all the time. And instead of observing what was the good thing that just happened to me, we frequently go to the downside. So the very first action that I would say in protection is your own behavior. Your own behavior, your own thinking, your own actions. That's what creates the energy around you. And that is really easy to say, and it's really difficult to do sometimes. I mean, when you stop and you think about energy and vibration, stop and think about the energy of joy and laughter. Well, how's that make you feel in your body right now? Just thinking about joy and laughter. I can personally feel it. Okay, so now think about somebody that just gets on your last nerve or makes you very angry, or your sibling that you don't see eye to eye with. My voice changed, everything about me changed. And that's because of where I went energetically. Right. In my mind and in my heart. So the very first thing we need to do in protecting ourselves is monitor our behavior. And, I've got a list here of different emotions, and I'm sure you all could make your own list. But the thing is, and we go through these emotions, all of them, probably every day. We're supposed to, we're human. Which ones are we hanging on to? Right. Because
in our bodies and in minds and hearts, right?
Yeah, and won't let go of. There are people that talk about their illness. And I'm not saying that they're not ill or there's not hardship there, but it's like my sinus issues.
Mhm.
I've just laid claim to sinus issues. My sinus issues, my depression, my rheumatism, my this, my that. I have just held on to an energy that I don't want.
Right, right.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, is that, I know obviously it's in the phrasing there, but it's also in how we are creating the emotional and energetic relation, right, to it?
Yes, but thoughts are things and words carry energy. There's not a thing that we do that doesn't, carry
Sure.
some kind of an energy with it. And it's up to us to, and it's to start looking at what kind of energy do we want. Whatever we put out comes back to us.
Right.
It's, it's as Annie Laws would say, this is the law of tenfold return. You put it out, it comes back tenfold. So, what do you want? Well, I don't want to be ugly and angry, and I don't want to focus on all this stuff. And but the stuff will get to me whether I focus on it or not. It's how much am I going to step into that quagmire?
Right.
Because it's floating around out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, and especially now, and with everything that's happening in our country, and of course you see that kind of piped in through the news and through Facebook and all of these places, especially with quarantine, we're so focused, we're not able to be out and socialize and kind of dilute these things, sort of. I feel like, I'm really keyed into the news and Facebook, which can be really negative channels. I feel like we have to make deliberate choices in there and how much we are holding on to and carrying. But a question that I have, so one of the things that I heard in what you were saying is that perhaps gratitude is a key component to kind of maintaining that energy level. You brought up the example of the car accident, and being present enough to be aware that even though the car may be totally just destroyed, that we were able to come out of that unhurt. And it doesn't mean there aren't going to be complications, but still there's things to be grateful for, and that perhaps that's a big component of it. But one of the things that I'm curious about is, another kind of another subject that's being talked about more and more within the spiritual community is spiritual bypassing. So how do we walk how do we walk a healthy line of maintaining high vibration, being very careful about where we're placing our thoughts and what we're carrying, without getting to a point where we are in a bypass mode with that. Does that make sense?
I'd like to know what your definition of bypass is.
So for me, spiritual bypassing is kind of I think one of the phrases that goes frequently with it is high vibes only. I do high vibes only. I don't want to tangle with anything that's low vibration, that's negative, that's difficult to deal with, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think that if a person is attempting to live that way, they're going to have to shut themselves in a closet someplace. And because even then, energy, the vibrations, they're still out there moving around. Has anybody been a lot more tired since we've gone through all this? Well, sure we have, because even though we're working on maintaining a high vibration, it's harder work.
Yeah.
It's much harder work. At the same time, too, we have choices. And in my version of reality, my choice is to take a stand for my truth and be in my own power. And there is no bypassing with that. To me, love is an action. Not saying that it's not an emotion and etc., but love's an action. And we can either act or we can talk about it.
Right.
And talking about protecting or doing energy work, we could either, if somebody tries to slime us or we get slimed, we can either respond from a place of power or we can react in fear. We can do either one, and it's our choice. And it's a difficult choice sometimes.
And it's interesting because when you talk about that, my immediate response is, interacting with somebody, we can get slimed and we take that on, but it's almost like you double down on the sliming if you go the reactionary route and go from the trigger place. It's like you've slimed yourself in the process.
Oh yeah, well, and we can slime all the time. And what about traffic? We don't stop and think about the language that is coming out of it being directed at some poor schmuck that just, had his tooth pulled or something and he's trying to drive. And now I know all this because I have done every single one of them.
Oh yeah. Me too.
And it's like I almost ran over somebody one time, and because my brother had just had heart surgery. I wasn't in that car. I really had no business driving.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing to me because it was like I almost hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And if the tables had been turned, I would have been using 4-letter words. Yeah. And so, that was a gift. That was a gift to me to change.
Those lessons. I've had that happen myself. I'm as sweet as pie until you get me behind the wheel of a car and I can't get where I need to go. Like the frustration just builds. And I don't know how many times I found myself in the position of just absolutely getting so frustrated and losing my mind to finally get around the person that's been, the obstacle to realize that, that's a 90-year-old man that's driving that car, and really didn't deserve all of my frustration. And of course, then it's like, oh God. I'm so sorry.
Good. That's perfect, because when you do that, you've just neutralized the energy that you sent that way.
Yeah.
Instead of smacking the little old guy, and we're all getting there. Yeah. Upside of the head, it's like, I'm sorry. Blessings.
Right.
And however you choose to do it, but the kindness and compassion energy follows up with the rage and tampers it down a whole lot. So good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. It's a lesson I've had to learn more than once. I'm catching myself now more frequently before the fact, but still, that the being in the car is always a tough spot for me.
Well, Molly, that's why we have these lessons, so that we can learn. Nobody ever goes, oh God, I'm so happy, I think I'll change. No, we learn from our mistakes and how we move forward with them, how we respond, and the energy that we put into them is what empowers us. When we grow our confidence and when we grow our forgiveness, we grow our own power.
That makes a lot of sense. And between, you know, being in our truth and in our personal power. There's so much there. And one of the things that, you know, we're talking about potentially sliming ourselves, but then there is also, you know, the conversation around, you know, sacred rage, sacred anger, which can be really, you know, if channeled the right way, can be really transformative. It can be creative. It can be, you know, it can affect, you know, positive change in the world. But I guess the question is, where is that line? Where is the line between the slime and the positive form, that sacred rage?
You know, I'm really glad you asked that question, because recently a bunch of us that were in circle together had that discussion. So I've got an answer.
Awesome.
What was decided upon basically was that when we go into a rage or anger, frequently it's about me and my ego. My ego's just gotten hurt. Somebody did something and it wasn't right for me, or they ignored me, or I did that. Why didn't, we can go on and on and on.
Right.
It generally always has an I in it or a me in it. And I call it righteous anger. Righteous anger or sacred rage is doesn't have much to do with me at all. It has to do with an injustice to someone else, an animal, a person, a race, a dishonesty, just something that is not directed at me, but it might affect those around me. And if somebody repeatedly trumps all over my boundaries, then yeah,
right,
they're asking for a correction.
Right. Because that was one of the things that popped in my mind too, is that, it makes total sense, the thing about, injustice that we see, when we see the scales of justice, unbalanced, and, people that, or, the planet, or animals that don't have the power to protect themselves, or perhaps being infringed upon. But then there's also those moments too, when our boundaries are being infringed upon. And I wonder too, like, one of the conversations, me and two other ladies that you may know, Kim Summers and Jenny Townsend, we started a project that'll be happening on Fridays called Love and Shadow. And one of the things that came up as a potential conversation for us is the difference between accountability and punishment. Holding somebody accountable for their actions versus punishing them. Or
so are you asking me?
Themselves. Yeah, kind of, in that same vein, that whole, righteous anger versus.
I think it has to do with the emotional charge you have on it.
Yeah.
If we don't have to be vengeful. This is another thing about energy. What you put out, once again, comes back tenfold. So if I send out slime energy to someone, it's going to come back.
Right.
Slimier and muckier. So, but it has to do too with the emotions behind it. Accountability, I guess I would need, first of all, to determine, is it my business or my place or my job to make someone accountable? I need to worry about my own accountability.
Right. And that's, even with ourselves. Yeah.
So that's where I need to focus first. And I have learned over the decades that I don't need to worry about holding someone karmically responsible, or you know, looking for vengeance or anything like that, because it's going to find them. I mean, I don't even have to get involved. It's just like, ooh, this is going to hurt when it comes boomeranging back. And it may not boomerang back quite quick enough to suit me, but at the same time, it comes back. And frequently the person on the receiving end, they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So for me, working on retribution is a waste of my energy.
Yeah. It feels like something that throws us out of balance. And I think perhaps it's in that being out of balance, maybe, and trying to think about what that means, you know, maybe further in ego versus in our truth. You know, being out of balance and further in ego is one of the states that kind of leaves us open, unprotected. Would you?
Yes, it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's the choices. An example, I had an issue with something I bought at Kroger. I took it back. It was $2, but I just happened to be in the area and I was snarky about this issue. So I took it in and I said, this didn't work right and I need refunded. And the person there started telling me all the reasons they couldn't refund. I was in purchasing for decades. So I feel myself going, and then it was like, wait a minute, Barbara, do you really want the energy of this for $2?
Right.
So I said, you know what? It doesn't make any difference. You keep the article, you keep your $2. Thank you. And I left. And it was an energetic decision.
Because you could kind of feel yourself tipping. Yeah.
Yeah. I was fixing to slime myself. And the poor schmuck that was worried over the $2. So it was just like, you know, this isn't worth it. Now there's a lot of things that are worth it, but it's not my $2.
Right. Absolutely. I'm going to take a quick look here. We've got some folks that have jumped on. We've got Sandra Greenboy. She said, thank you both and all infinity. So glad to see you on here, Sandra. And we've got Emily Blaine Clark. Wolf is in the house. Very, very good to see you. And of course, Marcy Ostertag is with us. Hi, Marcy.
Yo, Marcy.
And then Sandra says, yes, I gave in to accepting and to loving my shadow. Happened during this last past year. I am even learning to celebrate it all. It feels so much better. Yeah. It's but it's interesting because I think, you know, we talk, the word shadow has this kind, I mean, it is mysterious, and it's a place that people fear to tread. And I think one of the lessons that I've learned about that personal sliming of myself is, you know, beating myself up, punishing myself for shadow pieces, as opposed to, you know, holding myself accountable where I need to be held accountable, and then loving those things that were really calling out to be loved and held, and feeling that shift in energy between those two places was massive. And I do feel, you know, that it's allowing me to walk out in the world in a stronger and more energetically protected and stable place too. It's that shadow work is good stuff. It's good medicine.
It's I've got to tell you, I have not done the working with shadow that I do is a different kind of work. And it generally has something to do with the invisible people walking around somewhere, and not necessarily my own personal shadow. I have, I'm not saying I don't have it. Don't hear that. I approach it with different words.
Which is interesting because I think, one of the things that I have noticed within the spiritual and healing communities is there doesn't seem to be there's not a clear definition of a lot of things that we talk about. And shadow is certainly one of those things. So, in comparing apples to apples, I'm curious what you refer to shadow work as, and then what in a shamanic sense shadow means.
I don't know. That's the answer. But what I would say is that I'm big on personal empowerment. I'm big on what we in the shamanic community call stalking ourselves, stalking our ego, and also taking our energy back from in a situation where we wish that it had happened differently, and we call that recapitulation. And so it is it's a practice, and for me, of course, I'm a lot older than you are. I focused on my healing for quite some time. And then finally, it was a clear focus that I was trying to fix myself. And finally one day I thought, well, I'm probably about fixed enough. I'm tired of focusing on this. I want to focus on living fully.
Right.
And which is basically the same thing. It's just moving my focus. And so as far as doing shadow work, whenever I have a situation of any kind, I look to see, where am I in this? Where's my energy? What have I done? And my tendency today is to live in the present.
Right. Which is
huge. That even come close to answering your question?
I think so. Yeah, no, I think it does. And, I think that, no, that definitely, it helped me make more sense of it. And it's interesting talking about, focusing on living in the present, which is a whole other rabbit hole I could take us down. But I do want to kind of, before I do that, wind back around to the topic of protection and lean further into that space. Because you had mentioned having some practices, some I don't know why the word ritual is coming in, but that you have steps and practices that you take when it comes to doing protection.
I do. I have a lot of them, and most of them, and I'll share them with you here. I got a whole list, but I make sure, to the best of my ability, and let's remember, I'm human. And so if I say something to anybody out there that you don't agree with, just leave it, because that's how we empower ourselves. We are brought onto this planet with everything we need to survive. And our intuition is a huge part of that. And somehow or another, we managed to dumb it down because of the way we've been raised and, our living situation, where the animals and everybody else that are living beings on this planet, they still have their intuition intact and it's working fine. So, and that's an energy, that's an intuition that is supporting their protection. You think you're going to sneak up on a deer? Isn't happening. How come? Because their energy field, they're familiar with it. And so something walks into their energy field, they immediately know it. So sit there for a second, close your eyes, and feel your energy field. Now expand it. Fill yourself up with light. I don't care if it comes through the top of your head or up through your feet, or yes. Fill your whole inside, the whole inside of yourself up with light, love and light. Now push it out. And when you're ready, come back. So could you feel it being pushed out? If we were there in person, I would have L rods out and I'd be measuring and all that kind of stuff. But it looks
feels
to
like
me
a
like
bubble.
Good. So you did the bubble. So do it again with your eyes open and blow it out as far as it'll go. Now, I personally can see energy coming off the top of your head. But what that does is, if we get in the practice of being aware of our energy, and if something happens that doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel right, please don't stand there and go, oh, but wait a minute, I'm wrong. He's a nice guy. I know he's a nice guy. I've known him for years. You're not wrong. And it doesn't make any difference if you are, because more than likely nobody's going to see you blowing your energy into the next county. So just put yourself immediately in light. And what you've done is you've created power, power for yourself. So some of the things that I do, I get up in the morning and I don't look out the window and go, oh, damn, it's raining. I get up in the morning and it's like, today is the best day of my life, every day. And so far I've been right because I'm above ground, but it also sets the tone for the day and the energy for the day. And so if my energy is moving out there, like attracts like energy attracts like energy. And therefore, if I send out positive energy, this is going to be the best day, then guess what? Somebody out there is going to go, Barbara thinks it's going to be a good day. We better get on it. Yeah. So that is part of it, of just in the morning, I sit, after I get up, I sit and I clear my space. Now, and I do it almost every day. And I call my power animals or my spirits to me every day. And what happens if I forget a day? That's all right. Once we get in the habit of doing it, you're protected.
Right.
The thing about me, and I'm sure you too, probably, Molly, is when I do that, what I call in protection, I believe it. I'm not going, ooh, I hope that worked.
Right.
So, because when I do, ooh, I hope that worked, I have just blown holes in my protection. And that takes time to do it, and then do it again and do it again till you start really believing what you're saying and what you're doing.
Right. That building trust that we all talk about so often.
Yeah. So I clear myself on a regular basis. When I've been to a place where maybe I shouldn't have been, it's like walking in, we talked about walking in some place. I mean, I've walked into stores and it was like, whoa, I don't belong in here. and I've turned around and I've walked out. I've gone into campgrounds where it's like, I'm not staying here. And, you know, somebody would say, why? And I'd go, doesn't feel good. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So and I pay attention to it. I don't try to talk myself out of it. I've been there, done that, and I've reaped the rewards.
Right.
So, you know, and then as soon as you do that, you say, I knew that was going to happen. And you did. So you can wrap yourself in light in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes I use a white tornado. Remember Mr. Clean on television? You know, if I'm sitting someplace and I think this energy is getting a little wonky in here, I see it. What happens when we call this energy to us, we visualize it. We know it's coming. We see what it looks like. I call my compassionate spirits to me every day. And so when I need some protection, when I'm out someplace, it's just like, boom, I call them again. If I don't have to go, okay, now who am I going to call on? I don't know whether I don't think he's a very good one. Know who it is up front. Know who you're working with.
Right.
Know who you trust. Know who's going to do protection for you. And it doesn't have to be in a shamanic tradition. It can be in a religious, you know, you call on Jesus. You know, and it works.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one of the things that I've noticed for me is there is a place where I know that I have, you know, I have an immense amount of protection and spiritual energy working with me that, you know, I don't have names for, but there's an energetic signature. And I know that my higher self, my soul knows. And so I can request that, you know, whatever is in best alignment for that need come in and meet me in order to serve that protective purpose. And it works.
It works. It's but there's sometimes when you can't stop and go, if it's already in alignment and all that kind of stuff. There was a time I was on my way to work and it had snowed and there was traffic jam on Taylorsville Road. And so I got off Taylorsville Road and I started going down Public Road. And I was driving away and I just went right off. It was slick. I went right off into a field and I'm heading toward a tree, a big tree. And I'm doing this and nothing's happening. And I said, God, I could use some help here. Boom. The front end of this car moved past the tree. I threw it in reverse and my hand to God, thank you. I barreled out of there and I was not stuck. I went home. So sometimes we don't have time to negotiate.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's like, you know, help.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a similar experience where I was actually driving. I was coming to Louisville from Atlanta. And I was driving through Chattanooga and out of nowhere, this massive rainstorm opened. I mean, just the clouds opened up so fast. It was like I was driving through a waterfall. I just hit this wall of water and it happened so quickly. I couldn't even get my windshield wipers on. And I mean, there was, you know, several lanes of traffic and there's cars on all sides. And I knew in an instant that I was going to hydroplane. And there was a moment where I was like, this is going to happen. I can't stop this from happening, and just asking and trusting that I would be protected. And I did hydroplane. I hydroplaned across 3 lanes of traffic.
Ooh.
Didn't hit a thing. And I mean, and there were cars literally stacked all around me. And somehow it just, I had to pull over and stop to collect myself after that, as much for the fact that I didn't hit anything as much, you know, as much as, you know, for that purpose, as it was for being, the fear that had popped up, but just amazed and that protection came in.
You knew you were protected.
Absolutely.
And you believed it.
Absolutely. Completely.
Would you like for me to read just a few of these exercises? How are we doing on time?
We've got about 10 minutes, and if we go over by a few minutes, that's fine. I do want to one quick thing. I did see a question pop up, and we have a couple more folks that have jumped on. Let's see. Autumn Patrick jumped on. Hey, Autumn. And David Kemp, who said spot on. Thanks for the reminders. Lynn and David are both here. And then make sure. More. Okay. Dana says thank you. She's been looking forward to watching this. And then let's see. Let me jump back up here. We've got a couple of comments, and then I want to get to that question last, so we have a chance to answer it. Sandra says, after finally learning to be brave enough to feel my anger and letting it come out here and there, sometimes it comes out kind of crazy, and it still scares me a bit. I just feel so passionate and so much in the injustice thing. It can kind of take me to the other side. I'm laughing as I say that because now I feel like it is healthy to feel, honor, and express our anger in ways without killing another. One of the principles of Reiki is do not be angry. And at first I thought I may not qualify to be a Reiki teacher and facilitator, since I'm just now feeling and appreciating and expressing all of my feelings and emotions. One day I was so angry, I made a post asking if I'm going to get fired from Reiki for being angry. And it wasn't long till I deleted it, as I had received my own answer and I am not fired. That's awesome. All right. And then Autumn says, when I feel bad energy before bed, I picture a white orb between my hands and push it through the entire house. And that's a great exercise. I've tried that myself.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, it's great. Whenever I've lived in houses that have had spirit energy in residence that we didn't bring in with us, it was part of the house. And I've had moments where it's left me feeling a little shaky in the dark, and that same type of thing, just pushing white energy through the house has helped immensely. And then the question that we had was from Debbie McAdams. She says, will you define stalking, please?
Stalking. Debbie, I've got we did mentoring on that one day. What it is basically is being mindful of ourselves. Instead of taking everybody else's inventory, watch your own. Watch not in a harsh way or an unloving way to yourself, but just watching your behavior, my behavior. And when I feel like I have messed up, I'm always watching my ego, because that's where I'll get in trouble. Now, we need our ego, and our ego does some positive things for us as well. But when I get my undies in a bundle, then that's because my ego has come forth, and I need to be in charge of my ego instead of my ego being in charge of me. And we're human. We're going to get angry. We're going to have all kinds of different things happen to us. That's why we're here. Yeah, we're spiritual beings in a meat suit, basically, but there's a reason for that. We're here to learn and to grow and to experience. So I'm trying to think of an example, Debbie, about the stalking. The line of light. That's not original, but you know what? Most stuff isn't. We've learned it from somebody. And Analog talked about the line of light, and I stole it. And it's basically where each person has a line of light where when they go below the line of light, we're uncomfortable. We know, oh, that doesn't feel right. I shouldn't have done that. And when we stay above the line of light, we just kind of putt along trying to be good people. When we drop below it, I'm uncomfortable. And so I watch that line of light. I stalk that line of light to see. And if I drop below it, and I do, I'm either on the phone apologizing to somebody, or I am correcting whatever I did. Just like saying to the guy in the car, I'm sorry. You know, you went below your line of light and you just came right back up and you corrected it.
Right.
And then you let it go. You know, we don't have to, we say, I'm sorry, or I was wrong, and then be done with it and move on. Because we got other things to do, other good things to do.
Absolutely.
Did that answer? Hopefully that answered her.
It sounds like what we're talking about is kind of just a really an inventory and observation. Almost like I think about the British term stalking is, you know, they use it, you know, as we use the word hunting, but part of that process is always observing the animal, its behaviors, its movements, its patterns.
Good. Yes, yes. And there's another part of that, of reclaiming that energy back, but that's going into that right at this moment would probably be a little too lengthy.
Yeah.
So, but it's just taking that energy back.
Awesome, awesome. We did have another question pop up from Cheryl Neo. Hello from Singapore. Hey, Cheryl. She says, I have a question for Barbara about creating the field of light around yourself. Do you visualize? And then she says, do you visualize different colors of light each time according to your intuition, or is it usually just white light? Thanks in advance.
I generally do just white light. The reason that I generally just do white light is because that's the way I was taught. So for me, that's what works. Also, there's an old Chumash woman that would do white light around her, an egg of light, white light, and then she put just a little bit of blue, kind of like the blue of a flame around that. So I think it probably, whatever your tradition is what's going to work for you. Because, you know, if you think you need a specific color, every once in a while, I will think, I think I might need a rainbow. Mm-hmm. And do, you know, a rainbow. But normally it's the highest vibrational color that we can see is white. So that's why I use white. And I just see it. When I first started it a long time ago, I would see a bubble of white light in front of me, and then I'd step into it. And then I would just say, I'm in the light. Only positive energy, love, and light can abide in me, around me, or through me. I still say that a lot. However, I just, the light, just like we just did, you know, filled up with light and then pushed it out. It doesn't make what it is, it's the intention. The energy of the intention is what is most important. Because if, you know, if in your tradition green is the color of protection, then do a green one. It's saying, I'm protected. I'm protected, and believing it. So, you know, I can give you all these different exercises, and I will give you some of them, But if they don't work for you, if you're thinking that's nuts, don't do it. Do the next one that you think that sounds cool. You know, and you're not going to do every single one of them. You know, if you do, you die of old age. So I have a power statement that if I feel like I need, is it okay? Are we moving on now to the, okay.
Absolutely. I'm just going to say, if you see me looking down, I'm writing things down myself. So,
okay. So if I'm trying to clear my energy, or we do this in circles sometimes, it's like if we've done some kind of work that it's like, you know, we'll just say my energy is my energy and only my energy, which is basically saying I'm not taking on anybody else's energy. I'm me. This is my energy. Sometimes when I'm going into a place, I will say, where I walk is sacred ground, and where I am is sacred space. And I believe it.
I'm writing that down.
Okay, good. So, you know, sometimes too, lighting a candle with intention. Candles are like prayers. I mean, there's a reason the Catholic Church has got them all over the place. And you got to pay to light one of those little candles. And it's because, and you put your prayer in there. And then, but what happens is the spirits will come to that. It's light. It's a positive intention. It's a request. So I got one going right now, because I want the space around me to be spiritual, full of light and love, and I didn't want to bomb tonight. So, you know, I said my prayer in my intention into the candle. A lot of us smudge. And we'll go through a house with a smudge stick, Palo Santo. A candle will work. And I have learned tonight, a white orb in your hand. If the intention is I'm clearing the house, you walk through there. I mean, that was brilliant. It doesn't make it could be kitty litter. If you think it's good and the intention is this is clearing the house.
Right.
Then it will clear the house. Of course, the more sacred you can make it, the higher the vibration will be. And kitty litter is kind of like down on a little bit lower on the vibration. We have an energy field. Many of you have know that we have an energy field around us called the Merkaba or the Merkaba. Either way is right. You can spin it. You spin it one way, and then the bottom part another way. It looks like a three-dimensional star. And you'll clear your energy and protect yourself.
I can feel that.
Yeah. Cast a circle. I suspect there are people on this call that know a whole lot more about casting a circle than I do. However, if you draw a circle around you and you make it a circle of light, you might even see a column of light, prana, coming down. Energy is energy. It doesn't make any difference what you call it. So sometimes I went through a period when we first got going on all this stuff in our country and everything, where I was having really mean thoughts, and that's not my nature. And so gosh, there is something really wrong with me. What is it? And then finally I did some spirit work on it, and I realized that it wasn't me at all. It was something tapping in on occasion to create negativity. Beings of light are sometimes tapped into by heavier energy with a purpose. So I just finally got to a place where I would say, get behind me.
Mhm.
And I meant it. And I didn't ask nice. And I didn't say, would you please step back?
Right.
No, it was,
From your power.
yes,
Mhm.
that's the thing. And then I didn't go back to it. I left it. And it's, after a period of time, it got less and less, and then it went away. So not every time we are doing, every once in a while, it's a good idea to go, is this really me?
Right.
Because this doesn't sound to feel like me. A lot of the work that we do together in our circles and stuff, if we think that it's going to be, that it could be stressful or something, we'll say that we want to do the work under grace in a perfect and gentle way.
Mhm.
So we do that with clients when we're saying a blessing, whatever. It's just, we're going to be okay when this is done, and it's not going to be unpleasant.
Right.
The Lord's Prayer is a very, very powerful, sacred tool.
Mhm.
And when I first got into metaphysics, I had a lot of stress and angst and nightmares that didn't feel like nightmares.
Right.
And I would end up saying in my dreams or waking up and saying the Lord's Prayer, and it would just dissipate.
Mhm.
So there's that. Everybody has a strength. It could be anything. It could be your attitude. It could be your kindness. It could be your courage. Whatever you have, go to your strength. Just go to your strength and keep focusing on bringing in your own personal empowerment, not power over, but power within.
Right.
To walk your talk. Wear a pendant or something that you believe is protective. Some people wear fish. Some people wear a crucifix. I wear the Celtic rune of protection. I don't know if you can see that or not. It looks like a peace sign upside down.
Mhm.
And it's the rune of protection. And so whatever, it doesn't have to be what I wear, whatever you would wear that you think, this is my protective stone, or this is my protective whatever. If you seem to be having a lot of issues with energy, consider changing your thinking.
Mhm.
Because who's always there at the scene of the crime? So and most of the time, it's not because we are bad people or anything. It's fear or not believing in what we're doing. That, I can do it, Barbara can do it, but I can't, I can't do it because I'm not Barbara. That's BS.
Right.
We've all got the capability. We've all got the capacity. Call in your compassionate spirits, call in God, call in anybody that you think you want, but don't be standing around scratching your head saying, who am I going to call on? Figure it out.
St. Michael is one that works for me often too.
Good. Like this symbol or a cross, draw that symbol on your skin. If you're getting ready to go in someplace where you're uneasy or uncomfortable, it doesn't, you can do it with pen, or you can just do it with energy.
Right.
You know it's there, and it will be there.
And if people that do that with Reiki symbols as well for the same reasons.
Absolutely, yeah. And those, I use Reiki symbols.
Mhm.
I frequently use Reiki symbols when I'm doing protection work, though. when I'm
Nice.
clearing something.
Clearing space.
Yeah, chokeray. So there are 3 spirit gates in the body. One is right at the back of the neck.
Where the neck meet and the skull meet?
Yeah. What's that called? Bridge of Shambhala. The Bridge of Shambhala. Right back there. Okay. There's also one at the back of the heart. And there's also one in the back at the sacrum. Okay. The one that you would normally feel pressure, if you're getting too much energy, not necessarily has to be heavy energy, but it can be. And what you do is you just close them. Or if you're going into a place where it's like, I don't, I'm wanting to protect myself, and you feel really strongly about it, just visualize the eye of a camera closing back there and just shutting off that personal portal to you. So I'm looking, I've got some here too, but we can't do them because we're not together.
These are awesome, by the way, Barbara. These are great.
I particularly like the explosion one that I had y'all do it. I'll do it with my hands too. People make a joke at me because I'm doing this a lot. Well, what is that? Well, it looks like a finger to me, but it's also an extension. It's a wand.
Right.
And so if you, I would encourage everybody to clear your home, the interior of your home. I do it with light. I sit and I just go through every room and fill it with light. And I say, my home's in the light. Only positive energy, love, and light are welcome here. Everything else needs to leave.
Do you work on your exterior, like down to your property line? Do you do? I know lots of people will, almost do like a bubble around the house to the property line, and 50 yards above and below. And
I do all of it because I've had so many classes here that I want people to come in and feel safe, and I want them to be safe.
Right.
I have a lot of medicine wheels on the property, and there's, so there's a room that has a crystal grid in the walls, and I mean, so I've worked with it over the years. And so the answer is yes, I do all of that. I also have the property lines seeded with crystals. And the crystals were programmed. Program means they were infused with my intent, and they received that intent.
Do you use a specific type of crystal when you do that?
I just use, well, those I got inexpensive ones. They were clear or white. It was the quality. I'm not a rock hand. So the quality of crystals are, it's important, but the energy for me was more important. And I needed, I mean, I live on 5.5 acres, so I needed a lot of, I mean, they were pulverized, a lot of them in chips and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get a crystal like this one.
Right.
And start smashing it.
Right.
This is another thing that a person can do. It's the same as a bubble of light, is visualize yourself stepping into a crystal. So a couple other ways to clear your house. smudge, light, bells.
Yeah.
You can go through with tingsha bells, and if they sound flat, just keep ringing that bell until it perks up and sounds clear. You can do the same thing with a drum or a rattle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've used all three of those. Another thing that I've used that I'm not sure if you have you ever used Florida water?
I have, yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. I ought to put that on my list. It is on another list, I'm sure, someplace. But yeah, it's that's good. That's really good.
I love Florida water, and if things feel a little heavier and slimier walking into a space, you know, rue water occasionally.
What?
Rue water?
I don't know what rue water is.
It is, it actually, it was a cologne at one point as well, but it tends to work with heavier energies. If you're, you know, especially if you're doing like a house clearing or something like that, rue water can work really, really well. And it's I know the Florida water was originally cologne. You can find it with like the original like logo and packaging design on it, and rue water comes very similarly. I think actually the same company makes it now.
Rose water's good too.
Yeah, I like rose water a lot. Yeah, those are wonderful.
So how are we doing?
We're doing great. Yeah, no, that was wonderful. Checking here the feed to see if we have lots of comments. And Barbara and I will go back through your comments here. Lots of thank yous and comments here. But yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. I think that's I know for me personally, it's given me a lot of things to work with in addition to the tools that I've developed on my own for a while, that I'm excited to try some things that I've written down that I will definitely be looking back forward. And Debbie, I'm always afraid I'm mispronouncing your last name. Debbie Marno jumped on. She jumped on a little bit late, and she said, you need to come back again.
Oh, thank you to have you.
So yeah, I would love that too. This has been absolutely wonderful. Barbara, if you wouldn't mind telling everybody a little bit, if you've got any upcoming classes, things that you're working on, how they can get in touch with you, and it's in the comments as well, or the description. But
well, thank you. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that we're all responsible for our own energy. There's no such thing as a victim unless we decide we're going to be one. So take that with you. And that's a whole lot easier said than done. It's easier to blame somebody else, but it just comes back. Don't do it. As far as classes, I have a class that I'm doing that is a mentoring class. It's a shamanic mentoring class on Zoom. And when we first got started all this, I've just started teaching or even thinking about teaching again. But I didn't want to. It was, I was tired, and doing this on electronics, if you've ever been to, and I know you have, to one of my Tuesday night meditations, the very first thing that comes out of my mouth is turn off your telephone, off, OFF off, dead as a hammer, no electronics. So here I am, you know, that was a lesson to me, you know, serving it up, talking to people on an electronic device. And it wasn't that I don't like electronics for communication. It's the energy when you're doing spirit work. So it's my hope to do, I've been contemplating a medicine wheel workshop, and I've also been contemplating a beginning shamanic journeying workshop. Wow. And the other workshop or the other circle that I have is for people that are experienced in shamanism. So but you're welcome at this point.
Awesome. Yeah, no, the classes that you just mentioned, those are going to be all on Zoom, is what you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking, unless a miracle happens and we could all meet somewhere, but
Yeah.
I don't see that happening for a while.
Not for a little while, unfortunately, but that definitely for those of us that aren't based here in Louisville, it does definitely give them an opportunity to learn from you, which is exciting.
Well, thank you. It'll happen.
Yeah.
We'll get there. There's a gift in this too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Well, thank you so much for being here with us all tonight. I'm so grateful to you for your time and your wisdom and your teaching, and I hope that we can do it again very, very soon. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being with us here this evening. I'm grateful to you all, and have a
God bless.
weekend. Thank
God
you.
bless.